This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. CJAD 800.
If you're sick and you feel like a truck has just passed over you, please stay at home. If you're a student, don't go to school. If you're an adult, please be kind enough to think about you and stay at home and get isolated. After that, if you have other symptoms, you can go back to your activities, but mostly the essential activities. So don't get in contact with other in parties and restaurants in different kind of activities, and wear a mask while you will have your symptoms. And for a 10 days period, please do not be in contact with persons that are vulnerable, like elderly people or person that are immunocompromised or pregnant women or others that might be at risk to develop complications if they are exposed to such a virus. And still, again, if you have access to a COVID test, which we still suggested to be so, because there are a lot that are available in pharmacies, and we have it's all available for everyone, give you a chance to do a test, and if you're positive...
Yeah, I know, stay home. I got it. That's Luc Boileau, our public health director, earlier today, press conference where we might have been expecting the worst, James Mennie, but we got this. So I think the highlights, as you said, if you have symptoms, you get COVID, it's 5 days at home, wear a mask if you go out, and he said for 10 days at least, that's what you should be doing, and avoid people who you think may be more vulnerable. There's not a whole lot of anything new in here. Did you get a sense of more concern from the government today?
There was a little throwaway line that they're keeping an eye on a new variant that apparently has come out, BB.1. I think I'm getting that right. But all that said, as you say, you could have, that clip could have been lifted from a standard, public health address from 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, frankly, don't go into work sick and whatever. It was less of an issue maybe 10 years ago. But we also have to consider the context when those comments are being made, because, yes, what Dr. Boileau was saying makes perfect sense. Remember, there are a lot of businesses out there that don't have enough employees. And, I'm trying to figure out how a business owner who's hands-on, runs the place, is going to use that advice if he or she begins to develop symptoms, if he or she begins to, whatever, feel sick, or the staff feels sick, or, are you sure you're sick? Can you not come in?
Yeah.
I'm not saying people will do this in a malicious way, but this is where we are right now. So, but the other thing is, and I always find that, and indeed, the only thing he didn't say was wear a scarf when it's cold out. But the other thing that gets me about this is this government has had a rather annoying habit of holding press conferences where they don't really have a whole heck of a lot to say. And as you say, you wonder why they're holding the thing. Is there something in there? Did I miss something? Is there? And no, but it just seems that they need to tell the public that, we're on the case, we're watching things, and I'm thinking like, well, gee, I hope so.
Yes,
I hope you weren't going back to your desk and playing Pong on your computer, because, this thing's not exactly over. We all have to be careful. And winter, as they say, is coming. So if we're lucky, we will have fewer press conferences, even if they have nothing to say. And hopefully they'll be earlier in the day. I was a little worried when it went to the 3 o'clock zone.
Me too.
Because the later they are, the bigger the punch. But apparently that wasn't the case today.
Pong, huh? Meanwhile, in Ottawa, we're getting a fiscal update from there. Chrystia Freeland letting us know what may be coming down the pike. This just happened, actually, just not that long ago. Jim, you take anything from that?
I'm looking at what's being released so far, even as we speak. Nothing earth-shattering. I think the speech itself may contain more detail than what's being released. I'm seeing right now 2% tax on companies that engage in stock buybacks. I'm seeing a reduction in transaction costs for credit cards that being used by small businesses. $1.3 billion put aside for Fiona damage. But I think the guts of this story will be revealed in what Ms. Freeland actually has to say, because, the irony is it always was about the economy, but now it's especially about the economy. We're all paying attention to it, no matter what political side you're on. And it has become a real, of all the things that this government is being criticized for, the criticism that's going to stick the hardest and be the most difficult to scrape off is about the economy. If only because when people talk about inflation, and if the opposition say, well, the government's got to do something about it, it's the government's fault. Well, it is the government's fault. Inflation is going on worldwide, varying degrees, and we're seeing yet another round of raises, increases rather in the interest rate. There's tough times coming. I'll be interested when I see the text or watch her speech later to see if she actually uses the word recession, because it's the R word. Most people like to tiptoe around it, but it looks like we are well on our way. And honestly, unless there's some huge unforeseen set of circumstances, I think it's going to be with us for at least until the middle of next year. So, all of a sudden things get serious. I think I hope we'll be seeing a lot less in the way of, kind of Zen-like slogans coming out of the Prime Minister, and a little more in terms of hard, dollars and cents advice to Canadians, and this is what we're going to do for you. And, I would also hope that they will announce at least a spending freeze. But once again, this is a government that normally doesn't do what most people expect it to. So
yeah, I just saw something scroll across the screen. So $6.1 billion in new spending. That's what's announced, which I think is a whole lot less than we've seen
absolutely.
in the last couple of years. So
yeah,
freeze,
absolutely.
Though.
That was that's for the Liberals. That's sofa change. It's, so
just
it's really,
about.
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
These guys would, but I think the message has gotten through. And there's a part of me that says as well, I know we're talking 2025, we have an agreement with the NDP. I think this government would like to go to the polls sooner rather than later, and it won't be able to do that unless it has really places, its economic house in order. Because, as I say, it is a very, very weak flank for this government. And if they can turn around and, try and get the words fiscally and responsible in that order in a sentence applying to them, I think we'll be happy as clams.
And not use the word recession, because I was like, what have they got to lose right now? They might as well just use the word, own it, say that they're prepared for it. But
yeah,
I guess,
exactly. I mean, people want to feel safe. Mm-hmm. People want to feel safe. They want to feel their job is safe. They want to feel their money is safe. That's what governments are supposed to do, whether it's your physical safety or your psychological safety. We don't want you to worry. But don't worry. We're in charge. We're on the case, and this is what we're going to do: A, B, and C. And I think it's very significant. I mean, I know she's the finance minister as well. But I think a lot of this is going to be more easily digested by Canadians coming from Chrystia Freeland than it would be if it came from Justin Trudeau.
Agreed.
Meanwhile, in Quebec City, where they're dealing with the really important issues, Jim, what happened today?
Well, it's kind of funny because when I heard Dr. Boileau in that clip saying, if you wake up and you feel like you've been run over by a truck, that's pretty much what the leader of the PQ experienced this morning, except maybe it wasn't a truck, it was a bus. I heard you before I came on. You said, I'll say it politely, the Quebec Solidaire changed their mind. No, they threw the PQ under a bus. It's as simple as that. And quite frankly, given that the three PQ MNAs have pretty much been doing the equivalent of running around wearing T-shirts saying, throw me under a bus, I dare you, okay? I think this is not surprising and quite frankly well-deserved. And I believe that this is going to be hung around the PQ's necks for quite some time to come. Also remember that the fact that Quebec Solidaire is going to be swearing the oath and saying, and I think a lot of people are happy with that, saying, listen, we'll introduce legislation to make it optional. The fact that they are doing this in the midst of ongoing negotiations for both the PQ and Quebec Solidaire to get some kind of official party status before the session begins, I think it's very interesting. And I think in the end, guys, the PQ has painted itself into a corner, using its tongue as a brush. It couldn't shut up about this. It got more and more histrionic and hysterical about this oath. And, we were rolling our eyes from day one. I think a lot of Quebecers now are simply rolling their eyes in general over the PQ. I think they've done themselves a big bunch of damage. And I only say that because I don't want people to think I only criticize the leadership of Dominic Anglade. Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon has created what, if it wasn't for the fact he's just starting the term, it would be a career-ending gaffe. But as far as I'm concerned, if they were irrelevant before this particular episode, I mean, they have become just this side of laughable. And when you think I'm talking, remember I'm talking about a party that's been around for nearly half a century and used to split, half that century running the province. That's a mighty far way to fall.
So I would just ask you, so yes, they've been thrown under a bus if you're the PQ. So now all of a sudden, PSPP, what are you doing at this point? When this is now going to be introduced, the idea, of course, is to make it actual legislation so they can all say, we're not going to do this going forward. Where's his position now? What does he do?
Well, he's boxed himself in, like I say. He says, I'm not going to do it. End of story. And when the news came out this morning that Quebec Solidaire would take the oath, he still said, I'm not going to do it. I don't see... short of of his name becoming synonymous with ridiculous flip-flopping, with a lot of like really talking out of one side of your mouth and doing something else entirely, I don't see what he can do. He may end up, he and his caucus may end up not even in the National Assembly, not even allowed in the National Assembly until this proposed law, which apparently has tremendous support from the Coalition Avenir Québec. Legault said today he's willing to fast-track that legislation. They may not get into the National Assembly until that law goes into effect. And think of the wasted time and in PQ's case, the squandered political capital, all for what was really, I can't think of a better way to say it, was really a dumb idea.
James Mennie, the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Madam.